Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast. I'm Young Gruff, and as always, I'm joined by Lachlan.
On episode 189, my god, that's a lot of episodes, the world is closer to global peace. That is right. Paddington in Peru trailer dropped, and it's time for everyone to be happy again.
Yes, I'm so happy. And Sony is the first big studio to buy theater chains in 75 years. We'll chat about that. I watched the first 4 episodes of House of the Dragon and the first 3 episodes of The Boys, so I got some thoughts to share on that later on in the show.
Finally, talking about being happy again. Let's be happy. Let's be mad. Let's be sad. Let's be anxious and show your insides out too. That's right, we saw Inside Out 2 this week, the sequel to Pixar's last major success. Yes, maybe?
Maybe.
Well, hang on. Yeah, either way, this is maybe going to be a success. Who knows? Maybe it will put Pixar back on their feet. Let's talk about that later on in the episode. That's what we're going to be talking about. Inside Out 2.
That's going to be our main topic for later on, so timecodes linked below if you want to skip ahead to that. But first up, let's cue up that intro.
We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there. Which actually,
Did you
this
get
is gonna
me a
be
hat
a
as
bit,
well?
Yes.
So I've got Dune Cam. It's just a camera with my Dune Steelbook.
All right, welcome back. Lachlan, it's a big week for Pixar, for animation.
Yeah.
You know, the Annecy Film Festival is going on right now. I've seen more animation than I've seen live action this week, which is rare because there's not that many animated movies that come out this usually throughout the whole year. So I'll be talking about that. There's a separate video that will come out on the channel later this week as well. But we got some news stories to talk about. And so this first one is actually quite an intriguing one because it only is possible because in 2020, they got rid of that antitrust thing that was established to prevent major studios from having kind of a grip on the whole industry, from making the movies, from showing the movies, from distributing the movies. It was kind of broken off. That last part of exhibition is done separately, but that has been overturned in 2020, and now Sony is the first of the major studios that isn't a streaming service, because Netflix and Amazon have both respectively had like theater chains that they have theaters separate, like single theaters that they've bought. But Sony has bought the Alamo Draft House, that is or was or will be, we'll see, the 7th largest theater chain in North America. It only has 35 establishments in the country. What's special about it though is that it had a focus on no texting, no talking, no phones and stuff like that. Like they were pretty strict, like kicked you out and banned you from the establishment if you were to do that. And it's also a place where they bring food to you. Like they have a restaurant that you can order stuff, they bring it to you. I think they got pretty comfortable seats. I've never been in one, but Lachlan, what do you think about Sony buying a theater chain, and maybe will we see more distribution companies and production companies do this in the future as well?
I don't really have any thoughts about it. That's positive or negative. We'll see how it evolves. It's interesting because obviously no one's been able to do it, that is, until now. And what they decide to do could be quite interesting. You know, if a great example of where it could go bad would be if someone like Warner Bros was to buy a cinema chain and then have a feud with Christopher Nolan, and then a Nolan film comes out and they refuse to screen it. But that would also be really dumb of them as a cinema chain to not release a massive movie by Christopher Nolan. So you can kind of see it as like a double-edged sword, that they're going to buy these theaters, and the best interest is not to shut them down, but to make something of it. Give a reason for people to come back into cinemas and see the movies that they're making. And we'll see, it, like as I said, double-edged sword, might cut themselves and harm them, but end up maybe being beneficial for cinema in a way. But we'll see. It's the first of maybe a few.
I mean, the other studios who already have it, like Netflix is a juggernaut in the industry now, but they're not regarded as one of the big 5 studios. at the moment, and they have like the Egyptian in LA and the Paris in New York. It's interesting, the naming conventions that like you got like a Paris, you got Egypt, and that in LA and New York. I myself work in the exhibition industry mainly. That's my day job. And to see it like not just for our theater, but also just like in the whole country, and then also in Europe, and then also in the States, having a look at it. Theaters are very much hurting by the decisions that these larger companies have made to push so much to streaming. And Sony has been the one company who has not made their own streaming service. They've sold their stuff to Netflix. They've been pretty smart about what they put out. Like even the stuff that bombs for them, like a Madam Web or a Morbius, could be so much worse, because at worst, it was an over-budgeted thing that was really bad, and people still talked about it. With these other like larger projects that have like $250 million in their production budgets, and they make nothing. Yeah, he's got the two of them. That's nice.
I wasn't ready.
And they lose way more because we just are not expecting, like, audiences are not going back to theaters, and then after 20 days they drop it on VOD, and it's like you like further are training people in desperate moves to get some money out of them, but also enable piracy way earlier, that like ultimately it's just dying off. And my point being, if these larger studios are more willing to do like rescreenings and special stuff with like licensing movies, older films to show, is usually quite a hassle for theaters. So if it's their own thing, they have the rights, they can do it a bit more easily. So maybe we could see like I don't know, if it's a Warner Bros. Owned theater, that they can do reshowings of some of their older stuff a bit more frequently. Remains to be seen.
Henry Selick is back in the news, as he has an interest in directing another stop motion adaptation. And that adaptation is going to be of The Ocean at the End of the Lane, a Neil Gaiman novel, I believe, which is got massive high esteem. And obviously Henry Selick, the creator of Coraline, and once again, Neil Gaiman, the writer of Coraline, is a wicked combo to have back in the ring. He describes it as almost a sequel, end quote, and companion piece for Coraline, which is a nice little interesting one there. For those who love Coraline, there will be a 3D remaster coming out, re-released film on the 15th of August. Not bad.
Yeah, I'd love to revisit that one. I never got to see it in the theater, let alone, I guess, in 3D. I don't know if I need to see it in 3D. It's a pretty darn good movie in 2D already. But yeah, you're also a big fan of Coraline and Henry Selick and Neil Gaiman, so I assume you're gonna be pretty excited once this one comes out, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's a combo that I love. Yeah. I've got Neil Gaiman books. I loved Coraline. I have a massive memory in my brain. It's funny because we're going to talk about memories later on with Inside Out too, but there is like a canon event in my head where I went and watched it in cinemas, and I was fucking terrified the entire time because I was a child. But I enjoyed it, and will be very excited just because I gave a quick read of what The Ocean at the End of the Lane is sort of about, and does intrigue me quite a bit.
Yeah, looking forward to this one as well. Then we are getting a remastered, I guess a remake of the third Metal Gear Solid game, Snake Eater, and you're a bit more familiar with the Metal Gear Solid games. Have you played the third one?
The problem is I've played them, but I never finished them, and the ones that I played, I really had no idea what was going on, which is funny because we're going to get to what we've been watching recently, and the funny thing is I really haven't been doing anything in terms of watching stuff because I haven't had a lot of time on me because I've been out and about. But when I have been out and about, I've had
his trusty Steam Deck with him.
My Steam Deck with me. Ooh. And I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, and I've finished Metal Gear Solid 1 and I'm playing Metal Gear Solid 2 at the moment. I'm going to replay 3 and then I'm going to do 4 and whatnot. But I'm intrigued because the fucking visuals to this look really good, and it's staying as close as it can, if not exactly the same as the original. So this remake isn't really changing that much other than giving you the option to change things to make it more modernized, which is nice to see. So it's more inclusive of modern gamers. But no, that's cool.
I'll have to dive deep into those games once I can at some point make the time. But hey, no better time for it than a like updated remaster of it that looks a bit more made for current like specs and graphics that what we expect nowadays. Then, Lachlan, we do have a couple of quick news, so we'll rattle through them. It's not as much as last week. Last week we were on this for like 10 minutes. This should be done
hours.
In about 3 because there's not that much. So let's kick it off with first good news. House of the Dragon is about to premiere. Has come out by the time this episode releases, and it's already been renewed for a 3rd season. And then via his blog, George R.R. Martin has confirmed that the previously cancelled Game of Thrones spin-off show 10,000 Ships is indeed back in production, or they're working on it. And apparently there's like a giant turtles in it, and 300 dragons. It said 1,000 years before Game of Thrones, and it's the story of warrior queen Princess Nymeria, the founder of Kingdom of Dorne. So I'm quite intrigued. House of the Dragon has not let down. So looking forward to another spin-off from that universe.
Robert Pattinson is set to produce and potentially star in a remake of Possession. Parker Finn, who directed Smile, is set to direct this one.
Have you seen Possession?
No, but I've got it up on my other screen here because I was looking at it.
Sam Neill is in it in a surprising role.
5 stars, 5 stars, 4.5 stars, 4.5 stars, 4. There is a lot of really high praise for this film.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun one. I think I myself gave it a 4. But go check it out before I guess they do this one. Then Zack Snyder is doing a director's cut. They're really doing this for Rebel Moon, and it will be released on August 2nd. 2 new titles, so they're changing the chapters. I don't know if this is just for part 1 or if this is for both, but Chalice of Blood is for, the name for chapter 1, and then Curse of Forgiveness is chapter 2. And fantastic. Dude, he's got to have a curse for forgiveness, because honestly, fuck you, Zack Snyder. This is so annoying. I'm not going to watch it because they were dog shit in the first place. We don't need an expansion on it. So count us out on covering this, but we've done.
I'll watch it.
Okay, you're jumping on the Blade. So, which by the way, Blade,
I promise, I'll watch it.
Is a whole mess there. All right. I'll hold you to it. I'll remember.
When are they out?
August 2nd.
Oh, Jesus. I have to make some room on the calendar. Did they say how long they are?
No, I got no clue. They're in black and white and in 1:1 aspect ratio as well.
Wait, stop. Are they in black and white? Are you serious?
No.
Oh, fuck, man. I thought this was gonna be his new thing.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know yet.
Was this in the contract that he was originally going to do a director? Sorry, it's just quick news, but was it in his contract that he was going to do a director's cut?
I feel like it just comes with the territory that he marks. I feel like he comes in, he pisses on the ground, and then he's like, I'm going to do a director's cut, and we're going to use that as promotion at some point for this film. And I don't know if it works, because I don't see any buzz about the Rebel Moon films, and they don't seem to get... Like, they haven't gotten a sequel greenlit, so...
And we've got the first set picks from Wake Up Dead Man, Knives Out 3, the sequel to Knives Out, Glass Onion, and Knives Out, the murder mystery, starring Daniel Craig, and that's the first image we've got, and of Dreamy Boy, Josh O'Connor. They've both been released, and we're going to be showing them on the screen.
Yeah, as a priest. Did you see them? Somewhere. A priest. And there's Andrew Scott in the film, and then it's Josh O'Connor, Fleabag crossover. I'm
interested.
Sign
me up.
Yeah. And then we have a couple of trailers to look at. First, the League of Legends animated series. Arcane is premiering its 2nd season in November, and it will also be its final season. Lachlan, are you surprised that they already are announcing that this is going to be the conclusion to this franchise? And I think we both really liked the first season. I'm quite keen. It looks great, but what do you make of the trailer?
Yeah, Arcane was massive. Like it was a really good success, and it was so
many people got addicted to that game from
in a line of in a line of really good video game adaptations. This was one of them, at least from what I've been told, because I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Okay, I thought for sure you'd seen it, but we covered Cyberpunk when that one came out
Yeah.
at Runners, and that was sick.
I never got into League, and
Neither.
I never had any interest into it. For me, I was more interested in the Cyberpunk one, but maybe should I watch it?
I think it's worth. You don't have to see it. I'll cover it myself, but I feel like it's worth your time. It really is stunning animation. Right. I played League once, and I played as Fiddlesticks, I think, and that's a monkey character, and I picked it like 7-8 years ago when I played it, and I quote myself here as like monkey, and that's all I said that whole entire session that I played. And I played with people who actually play, and I think they got quite annoyed because I never calmed. I just said monkey over and over again. If Fiddlesticks makes an appearance, I'll be very excited, but I don't even know if that's the correct name, but that's my familiarity with League. Then we got the first trailer for Memoir of a Snail. The movie just premiered at the Annecy Film Festival. That's the latest from Adam Elliott, the Australian animated king. He's made one of my favorite animated films ever called Mary and Max, a truly moving piece of claymation. Stop motion stuff, and in a similar style. I feel like it looks really similar to, I guess that's just kind of his strong suit, that type of look. He has another story here, Memoir of a Snail. Unfortunately, I didn't end up getting a screener for this one. Otherwise, I would have already seen it, and we maybe would have both had an opportunity to review it, but the trailer has me very intrigued. Lachlan, are you interested in this one as well?
I definitely am. I have heard many good things of Mary and Max, and I have been meaning to see it. Never got around to it. This one definitely has got me intrigued a lot more. So I'd be keen to catch up and see what he's got.
You're still working on that like quintessential Australian movies list, and I assume Mary and Max has to make its way on there, even if you haven't seen it.
I think it is already on there. I think I already added it on there because I was trying to go through animated ones, but I'll have to double check.
And then we got the first trailer for the third Paddington film. I recently caught up with them for the first time last year. This one comes out early next year on January 17th, and it sees Paddington go back to his roots, looking for his aunt in the rainforest in Peru. And it's just a heartwarming film. The Paddington films are very, very cute. So Lachlan, I feel like we're both quite excited to see if this one can be up to the same level as the other two, because they were both really, really good, great films. And love to see a franchise that can kind of stick the landing. 3 entries in.
Definitely.
I don't think there was much else to the trailer other than them just kind of having a bit of a good old adventure in the rainforest. We also got another trailer, lots of animated stuff, because Annecy is happening right now, and we got a new one for the Wild Robot. That one's out on September 20th. What I wrote down is that it gives me the vibes of like it's Baymax, but just a bit more a robot, and he's also in the wild instead of interacting with humans. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but it's from DreamWorks. They've had some great stuff, I guess, in the past. I don't know, not as much like recently, I'd say, but when we watched the teaser trailer for this one, I think you were a bit more positive on it than I was, because I kind of disregarded it as like it looks kind of generic. This trailer didn't really reaffirm me beyond maybe having some interesting visuals that, this one is something that I really gotta go see. But what did you make of it?
This one made me go, okay, it's less of an Iron Giant ripoff, because I could definitely see those themes there. And my problem is, if you think it's an Iron Giant remake, or ripoff, I should say, then any kind of movie where a robot gets a new outlook on life, it gets a different vision, then it's ripping off the Iron Giant. So straight away, we have to take away WALL-E, iRobot, we're taking away all of these movies that are fucking good movies. This is not one of those, and I can definitely see this separating itself from the rest. And if I'm honest, I think the idea is quite a good visually pleasing idea. There's good visuals, and there's nothing more visually pleasing than something completely robotic within nature. It's coming to my head right now. Tales of the Loop is a really good example of that. I believe it's a graphic novel, and there's some really good imagery of these really like alien robot creatures roaming this planet in an environment, and it just looks really awesome. And I think that's a really cool visual look, and it's the same here, even though it's more of a kid's film with that visual style. I think that it's a really good juxtaposition immediately out of the box, right? Other than that, I can definitely see it being more of an inclusion movie than like a gun with a heart, whatever Brad Bird said, how he pitched the film, whatever he said. What if a gun had a heart? That's not the pitch of this film. It's more of like a finding your place inclusion. That's what it's kind of going for. But look, I'm keeping my hopes up. I mean,
the vibe that I would kind of be in for is if it were like Castle in the Sky, but basically just observing them while like before the kids arrive on the castle on the sky. So it's just like them interacting with nature. I feel like that could be a neat film if done right. But yeah, that one comes out later in fall, and then Apple had a bit of a showcase of the upcoming slate, and for a couple of these, I just got sent the screeners to most of the series that they show here, apart from Severance. So I'll be reporting back once I make some time to watch them, because usually they do like the 10-episode series or like an hour plus type of shows. I feel like they've delivered on quality, and I feel like we agree on this. Lachlan, you haven't really watched, I guess, some of the latest shows, and I haven't either because it's gotten a bit too much. But from what you can see in this overview, is there like any highlights that jump out to you that you really got to see?
I would like to see the presumed innocent with Jake Gyllenhaal, just because I like Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, the Instigators with Damon and Affleck look really fun. I've still got to watch season 2 of Foundation. Like I've heard that it's significantly better. I've still got to watch Masters of the Air because I heard that that's really good. Yeah, man. I don't know. Fly Me to the Moon, like it looks like a cute little film as well.
Yeah. I feel like they have a couple of new series, right? But then they also have continuations. I gotta say, Shrinking was, I think, last year ended up being in my top 5. That was the show about like shrinks. Harrison Ford was in it, and the role that they gave him was kind of fitting for him because he was a grumpy old guy, but sometimes he had a bit of a heart with certain characters. And that show has been like a ton of fun, really entertaining. Then something that I haven't caught up with is Pachinko, but I've heard really good things about it, so I kind of want to catch up with that. I haven't heard great things about Presumed Innocent. I do have the screeners for that one, but I haven't had time to watch it yet. And then Foundation, I haven't even seen any of it, but I know you praised it like 2 years ago. Must have been when it was coming out. But yeah, I feel like this is a good slate of films. You know, if you compare it to what Netflix is putting out, it's definitely like way less, but the quality floor is way higher than the one on Netflix, and I like that they a couple of years into having Apple TV Plus are still able to maintain that level of quality, and they also attract like a lot of big names for it. But then it's kind of interesting that sometimes even if you got like Harrison Ford in your show, that the interest isn't really there from, I feel like, the general public. I don't see these shows being talked about that much. It's weird for like Apple, literally, I guess Nvidia took them over, but one of the biggest companies now, not the biggest anymore, basically having like something out there that not a lot of people are talking about, and a hidden gem in some sort of way. But interesting stuff that is coming to Apple TV Plus. Lachlan, before we talk about what we've been watching this week, we want to remind you to leave a rating on your podcast app of choice, or subscribe on YouTube and leave a like there if you want to see more of our stuff. Let's talk about what we've been watching this week. All right, you teased it already. You haven't really seen anything, or you haven't really watched that much, but I'm still interested to what else you've been up to this week.
Yeah, so I watched Inside Out, the first one, because
why did you watch
Inside
that?
Out 2. Shocker, I don't know why.
What?
I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Fantastic movie. Rest in peace, Bing Bong. It's not a spoiler. That movie came out almost 10 years ago, so get with it. As I said, I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 2 at the moment. That game is just Hideo Kojima is just chef kiss. It's fantastic. Incredible. Yeah. But Ewan, this is a very important moment for us.
Yeah.
I have something to show you.
What is it? It must be another... Oh my god, the Dune cam is back. Oh my god.
Dune cam's back, baby.
Oh.
But more importantly...
Dune 2 cam. Is that what we're doing? Oh, that's what we're doing. It's Dune Part 2. That's such a pretty Steelbook as well.
I got the Steelbook, Dune Part 2.
Yeah. I heard they're not having it in like certain formats, so you still get like a scope cut or like a flat cut of it, which is a bit disappointing.
Yeah, it is. Hang on, let me cut back to Dune cam. Sorry, it's on the back of the thing. Ultra high definition, 16:9, 2.4:1.
Oh, 2.4:1? Oh, that's bad though. That's really cut off. Yeah. I don't know why they do like the super scope thing. Okay.
So, well, I'll have to wait for a better version to come out, but now I've got it in 4K.
Yeah, I mean, it looks, I'm sure, great, even if it has half of the top half of the faces cut off, but a great get. Thanks for showing us, and thanks for the update on Dune Can. Now we want a Children of Dune, you know, we got, this gotta be continued, and he's gotta make another movie just so we can get another new film on Dune Cam.
And if he doesn't, it just becomes Madam Webcam.
No one wants that. I don't wanna live in that future. Lachlan and I watched some stuff as well. The first 3 episodes of season 4 of The Boys came out, and I don't think they topped season 3's opening. Where wasn't that like the dick episode where like the urethra thing? I think that was in the first one. They don't do anything like as crazy in this, and it is a bit of a slow burn as far as like The Boys can go. As crazy. For some reason, they just have an obsession to give us a shitty Huey plotline like each season. And that's a bit disappointing, though, also a bit disjointed, but it still has the GIF-worthy moments in there. It's entertaining, and so far, I think it's a pretty good start to the second final season of the show, because they said they're definitely going to end it with season 5, and I like that they have an end insight. A lot of characters are like, you know, near death maybe as well, and could be pretty interesting. Like, when you watched Gen V recently as well, right? Did you finish the whole series? You finished it, right?
Yeah, I did. So so that I could watch this, and so it's like, because apparently it's like in between season 3 and 4 Gen V, so it like takes place.
Yeah, like a slight spoiler for this, but I think at the end of season episode 3, I think they just about teased that maybe there's a tie over to Gen V. So far in the first couple, there's no real, like, you don't need to see it yet, but maybe there's something more coming. I think the show comes out weekly now. I didn't even know that they are releasing 3 episodes, and I just saw like someone tweet that like, hey, the first 3 episodes are now streaming. So what? I missed that totally.
Jeez.
Something that I didn't miss, because I was lucky enough to get the first, not the first half, because there's going to be 10 episodes for House of the Dragon season 2. I got to see the first 4 episodes. I'm a lucky little bastard, that just to preface that, I'm lucky to be in this position. So far, I think it's pretty solid. Some people have been saying that like they have some questionable character choices that they make to maybe, I feel like, slow down the acceleration of that conflict, but to me, that was always the most interesting part of Game of Thrones and of House of the Dragon, when they do take the time to get all the pieces in place, and then we have those characters that are pretty imperfect. They're usually like all on the scale somewhere on the spectrum of being a huge dick and just a dick, and that's like entertaining to watch them conniving and trying to scheme, and then it kind of falling apart, and they have to readjust, and unplanned death happens and stuff like that. So I think the show is off to a pretty good start. It is a bit slower than maybe some would expect after the end of season 1 there, what happened there, which I don't want to spoil right here, because if you haven't caught up with it and you're reluctant after the ending of Game of Thrones, I think House of the Dragon is breathing a fresh bit of fire onto that franchise, and it's fun. So for me, it's just a pity that this is an insanely privileged thing to say, but like now I have to wait a whole like a really long time until I get the 5th episode. I don't know if this sent more screeners, but I'm quite intrigued to see this story unfold, and yeah, it's quite thrilling. Some great performances as well. I gotta say the standouts are definitely performances so far. Yeah, then I listened to some music, like Lachlan is talking about games, and I can talk about music. Charlie XCX had a new album out, BRAT, and I've had a great time with that one. It's a really fun album that I can recommend listening in on. And then I also watched the new Bad Boys Ride or Die film. I missed that one when it came out, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, and it's all right. I think it's better than the third. They definitely improve on it. I think what they definitely level up is the visuals. They have a ton of really flashy cinematography and editing bits that I gotta say mainly work, just because the whole universe is very over the top. And I mean, it had that famous Michael Bay thing where they get out of the car and then it circles the car, and it felt like the directors here were like, hold my beer, Michael Bay, and just went all out doing crazy shit. And that's just fun to see. I think the movie overall is pretty basic, but as far as action and entertainment goes, this is a pretty solid one, and it's been one of the revival things of the summer box office. It did pretty good numbers comparatively this year, so yeah, mild recommendation on that one. And then Am I Okay, a Dakota Johnson-led Sundance film from last year, is now out on streaming, and it's okay. It's a pretty good film about like a woman in her 30s trying to find herself and her own sexuality. Basically that, and it's pretty fun. And then lastly, I saw the TV Glow. I think we're going to dive deeper into that one next week, but I'm not done with the movie yet, but it's already very intriguing. So if you are on the fence, if you should check this out, it's now out on streaming. Yeah, go check that out. And then lastly, very lastly now, truly, the Annecy Film Festival is about to wrap, or has wrapped by the time this comes out. I ended up watching 10 films from the competition here. I'll link my ranked list from below. There was a bit of overlap from Ghana as well, but yeah, there was some interesting films, some a couple lackluster films, but one of the standouts that I didn't expect to be kind of interesting is a movie called Spermageddon. And it's from the perspective of these sperms that just want to have a drive to, I guess, get to the egg. And they all, and it's just a really ridiculous premise. It's not funny all the time, but there's a shit ton of puns in there that are quite nasty. So yeah. Another highlight would be Flow. That was about a cat, and the whole world gets overflown, and it's like there's no dialogue, it's just like animals in it, and it's pretty sweet. I'll do a separate video going over the films that I caught there. But that's it for what I watched this week, apart from Inside Out 2. So let's talk about yet another sequel from Pixar. Can it deliver, or will it be more in the vein of Incredibles 2, Cars 2 and 3, and Finding Dory? Can this one actually continue the story of Riley in a way that makes us tear up as well when another Bing Bong, or what was he called, disappears into the ether of long gone memories?
Teenager Riley's mind headquarters is undergoing a sudden demolition to make room for something entirely unexpected. New emotions: joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust, who have long been running in a successful operation by all accounts, aren't sure how to feel when anxiety shows up. And it looks like she's not alone.
Interesting premise there. It's not really given away who beyond anxiety is going to pop up. And from my understanding, I thought that this film might have like a introduction bit by bit for these emotions, but I feel like they pop up pretty directly. They pretty much pop up all together at the same time. It's directed by Kelsey Mann, who did the short film for Monsters Inc. Party Central in 2013. Now, the first Inside Out film was directed by Pete Docter, a true Pixar legend who's done Up, Soul, Monsters Inc., and he also did a Monsters Inc. short, Mike's New Car, in 2002. And it comes in at a runtime of 102 minutes so far on the first day of its release, on the Friday. It sits at a letterbox of 3.8 on IMDb and 8.1, and on Metacritic it has a 74. It was made for a budget of $175 million, which I gotta say for an animation film of this scale is still, like, considering inflation as well, if that's correct. We've gotten some animated films that were over 200 million, so they budgeted conservatively. Pixar movies do tend to cost a lot, so it's a good thing if you don't drop them on Disney Plus without an additional surcharge. So I'm glad to see Pixar back on the big screen. Lachlan, can it deliver? Can it continue the story in a satisfying way, though?
Can it? Will it? Should it? Well, it's a bit disappointing to see that Pixar let go so much of their, well, not so much, but 14% of their workforce very recently. And I'm sure a small amount of those, or if not a large amount of those, or just some amount of those people were working on this film. And
well, they were working not on Inside or 2, they were just working on Out, and they got them out.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a horrible
maybe you can save
joke.
some money there by not having to spend $200 million, by not having people to pay, and maybe not having, what's his name, Pete Docter to direct, so he probably doesn't have as big of a paycheck as Kelsey Mann, who has done one short, and that's it at this point. So,
yeah.
Is Pixar back? For me, I actually didn't enjoy the film as much as the first one. Okay. I think that the film is fine. I don't think has any moments that make me as emotional as what I think Bing Bong did for whatever reason, which is also a really fucking stupid sentence to say. Like, the name Bing Bong is just such a ridiculous name, and to be associating with that with sadness and emotion is quite a funny sentence. But with Inside Out, they really nailed Bing Bong as a character and what he represented when it came to childhood, and I don't really see that in this one. The only thing I really see is just anxiety. And unfortunately, with this one, anxiety takes centerfold a lot of the time, and I think steals the show in a way where I feel like it could have definitely been spread out more evenly with the new emotions. But I guess that's what happens when you have a very in actress right now, Maya Hawke, as the voice actress, and anxiety acts as the villain in this film, even though they're not necessarily the villain. It's an emotion that is quite important to humans, but can also destroy them at the same time. So it's a really interesting concept, and I think that Inside Out 2 does a really good job representing that. But for me, I didn't think that it ever reached the same emotional heights that the first one did. I don't think it ever had the stakes that the first one did. But what I will say is that I do think the humor was better. There were moments that did make me chuckle and laugh a lot more. I think it's not really a spoiler, but sarcasm was one of the fucking stupidest but funniest jokes I have ever had in like recent memory in an animated movie. And I think that it was really funny from the moment they say what it is, like it's a sarcasm, and then they kind of like make fun of how stupid that is, and then there's another like little bit after that. So I found the humor better in this film, but I just don't think it ever reached the emotional heights of what the first one did. But I feel like the first one was dealing with something that's a little bit more prevalent, and that's sort of like the end of childhood. Everyone goes through that, and everyone has a moment in their life where they do have high anxiety, but I feel like it's not as, well, I say it's not as common, but it's also something that not everyone experiences, where everyone experiences the end of their childhood, right? That's a given. But not everyone experiences the anxiety thing as heavily as what Riley kind of does in this exact moment. So it's kind of like a mixed bag, really.
I feel like it's definitely a movie made for, if that makes sense, for millennials a bit more than our generation, if I could differentiate it here, because it feels like the way that they talk about that stuff has already changed a bit, and it feels to me like slightly outdated, the way that they go about anxiety and the humor that comes with it, but maybe that's like not a correct statement at all. I'm totally off there, but to me, one of the bonuses was, of course, wearing a hat from the New Jersey Devils.
I was gonna say, I feel
I'm
like
a
you
hockey
like the
player.
movie, you're a hockey player.
Hockey
Yeah,
player.
yeah.
I do love myself a bit of hockey. I feel like this movie is definitely a lesser film than its predecessor, but it features so much hockey. I can't remember another film of recent memory apart from My Sunshine that I just saw in Gun, where Hirokata Koreeda stood behind me. So that's a great memory. But that was more about like figure. Yeah, it definitely is a flex. That was more about like figure skating, and he doesn't really want to play hockey, and it's not that much hockey in it. This is so focused on hockey that I was really in for it. I was like, yeah, man. I thought that like it's interesting that they time it right around the time that the Stanley Cup playoff final is happening. Although one of the teams is getting swept right now. They just lost their third game at the time of this recording. But back to Inside Out. I think adding new emotions in a way that only anxiety ends up being an interesting one is disappointing to me. I feel like you could have added more emotions that make more sense. For example, envy was there just for Ayo Adebari to riff. It was never really a true emotion that stood there other than like saying her sentences. I don't think it was like a rooted thing. They had like one or two contextual scenes where like it was explained through Riley's mind what that emotion is, the new emotion that she has, but everyone gets kind of that when they're first introduced. I think this movie is off to a really rough start at the beginning. The way that they recap you, it feels like it was made for streaming, ironically enough. That like is like, oh yeah, I just tuned something on. I haven't seen the first one. Let's catch everyone up to speed. And I don't know if it needed it as much because I feel like the concept is pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, I also had a good time with the humor. I think it looked great, but the overall plot, I think, was so much more basic than the last one because it was essentially one MacGuffin. And in the last one, it felt like it's not just the MacGuffin, but the MacGuffin is like figuring out what the MacGuffin is. Like, what do you figure out? And it's ultimate at the end of the day, it's like a lesson to be learned of the first one to not have singular emotions, but it's always a mixture of things. And I think there's not really that big of a lesson at the end of this. But maybe we can talk about that in spoilers. Yeah, what did you think about the recasting, for example? Like Bill Hader isn't in this one, and he was in the first. Yeah, what do you think about them recasting some people?
It's fine. Like there are going to be scheduling conflicts that come about. There's going to be aging that happens within the almost 10 years that it's been since the first one. So sometimes voices change and things happen. So I'm not.
I mean, Bill Hader's voice didn't change.
Yeah, well, I'm okay. Sorry, you know, maybe he got in an accident, you know, someone punched him in the throat just before he was meant to record, who knows? But
sure.
I didn't really notice and didn't really care, and if I'm honest, I really don't think, at the end of the day, I really don't think the actor matters that much when it comes to animation, because you can get people who can do very similar things with their voices. Like, people impersonate other people all the time. As long as they're capturing the same essence and the same emotion that the original voice actor's doing, then that's fine. But more importantly, if they can bring something else to it. And at no point did I think that any of the voice acting was below what it had been in the past. I actually didn't really notice any changes that much, if I'm totally honest.
Yeah, it's Bill Hader as fear and Mindy Kaling as disgust that we don't get. So, yeah. Just someone out from the Office verse, but we still got Phyllis Smith in there as sadness. Which, by the way, I'm not too sold on her voice performance. To me, there's something always that's kind of disconnected with her talking and the character. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, yeah, I cut you off. What were you?
My train of thought's gone.
Well, what do you think about Ennui? If you lost it, like Ennui by Adèle Archambault. She's French in Ennui.
That's Way, right? That was the one who was all doom and gloom.
Oui. Yeah.
Boredom?
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't care. Yeah.
Once again, not much other than they have a phone. And that was it. And they all have their moment, which is cool. They all have their moment, but it felt like it was a lot. It felt like it was an Avengers movie where it was like, oh god, here's one
By
group
the end of
is
it,
the other
yeah.
group, and there are so many of them that we have to kind of like keep focus, that you don't really get that much development. And if I'm honest, you don't really get a lot of what?
It's Inside Out Civil War, essentially.
Inside Out Civil War, sure. I mean, it kind of was, right? Like,
Yeah,
like
no, it definitely was. Yeah, you got the alliances being
anxiety,
betrayed, like
literally threw them out, and it's like they're the underdogs coming up, like their team Captain America. They wouldn't sign the new upgrade, whatever.
Yeah, do you want to go into spoilers? Because I do have something to say about embarrassment that would tie this even more.
Yeah, sure, why not?
All right, spoilers from here on out. It's Paul Walter Hauser's embarrassment, right? He doesn't really talk about from like one scene, but he's essentially the Scarlett Johansson, the Black Widow, in that one scene where they're in the hangar and she actually lets them get away. That's him in this movie. Yeah. Comparison to Avengers are closed, but yeah, spoiler wise, what else did stand out to you? I feel like to me, not that much, to be honest. It felt like a pretty safe movie overall, but what can you expect at this point from Pixar? It's not like they're changing up the formula in a major way.
Narratively, the film doesn't really engage me that much. I actually didn't enjoy the actual flow. It was just moments that were quite fun. And I feel like this film was sort of a moments film. It didn't really have a good flow connecting the whole thing together. I really enjoyed them being kicked out, going into the vault, and you good?
Yeah, I thought I might need to change my.
I was trying to figure out what you're doing, and I thought you were like panicking.
The light,
and you were like looking around, and I was like, "Are you?"
Sorry,
have
a
you got
flight is
anxiety
coming
right
in.
now?
Sorry, go over my head. Over my head is the landing. Well, I'll close my thing right quick.
But the moment when they go into the vault and you've got all of those three characters, the fucking Bluefy, whatever the other guy's name is, the one with the sword, and then you have Lance, and then you have Deep Dark Secret. Like, those were just three stupidly fun characters, and also the different animation styles. It was a fun little moment, and they all kind of like, they still worked, didn't feel that bad, and I kind of thought Deep Dark Secret would actually end up coming back and being something, but it's kind of like, no, I'm going back in here for now. It's like, what's the Deep Dark Secret, right?
We still don't know,
We still don't know. So there's Inside Out 3, right? For me, that was like a fun moment. As I said, sarcasm was a fun moment. The from there's not really anything else that really captures my memory other than you know, calling back Pouchy and then talking about how you know, I think anger reaching his hand into Pouchy's mouth was a really stupidly funny moment. And how he just has dynamite. And it's just like, what? That's like extremely dark. But like it was those moments. It wasn't really anything else that caught me, where you kind of have in the first Inside Out, it's essentially like a ride-along film, because you have joy and sadness going together on a journey, and it's them, and it's that relationship that they have, because obviously it's like polar opposites, right? And joy comes to an understanding, and joy comes to that understanding in this film as well, that we don't make the decisions for Riley. And I thought that was a really fun moment, because it made her have to let go, and then it had like the ideas to it, but that idea wasn't really there for the entire film. It was kind of there right at the end, and that was kind of it. I wish they had it a little bit earlier, so you had more to chew on for. But yeah, like it was a good moment film, but it just didn't really have the flow that would have worked to make it just feel a bit better.
There was one thing where like they build up to a big moment where like, oh, I gotta make this big decision in order to make the team, and ultimately it's like her coloring like a strain of hair red, and I was like, okay, red. that's the biggest thing you could have done. I feel like I don't know, it could have been something more extreme,
like blow up the fucking ice rink.
With
the dynamite from Pouchy's fucking pouch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I appreciated the hockey bits. That's kind of, I don't know, what I liked most about the film is whenever we were not. That's the weird thing about Inside Out. You know, you want to be inside the head, but I enjoyed the bits that were outside the most. I was like, oh god, now they gotta interfere again. I feel like I would have been just interested in a story about a kid and her decisions without like making them so literal within her head. And I feel like it also goes to a place where they trying to let her have a bit more free reign, and the emotions are basically just kind of there to push a button, or like, but she's pretty much moving by herself now, where it felt like in the first one, and when you're younger, you're like triggering these extreme emotions from one end to the other. And then the movie was about like her growing up and having a spectrum of memories that are good and bad, like a mixture of it all. And this one was so concerned about like how to plan for the future. I don't know, what did you think about the idea of the self that you're made up? Because I feel like that was also another thing that obviously you need maybe in a movie, but it was way too literal for me to have like an understanding of the self for me to make sense that it's like to connect to.
So the ideas I got from the film, there's a bunch of them. The first one, when it comes to the self, it's like suppressing memories, thoughts. Those were all the negative ones that they were getting rid of. Those are foundations of what make you. Like, you can't grow if you don't fall. Like, you can't walk if you don't fall first, right? You can't sprint without walking. So it's like there's those failures of doing the ultimate thing. Those are what build you. So that's yourself. Even though they are negative moments, they build and they create you. So that's one of the first ones I saw. The other one was, obviously, instead of emotions controlling you, which is kind of what it starts off as, it's then you controlling the emotions and then you taking the emotion that best suits that situation, which is why at the end it's like, hey, Riley's calling for you, Joy, and Joy's brought to the control panel, and then not that she's controlling, but she is helping guide, and then it's you get a very similar thing. It's like in Inside Out 1.
Press the joystick button when you don't know where to go, and it shows you the path.
Yeah, you go forward, right? In Inside Out 1, you get the idea of, you know, you need to have a cry once in a while, and that's okay. Like, you need that is something that you need, and that is an emotion that you can now call on when you need it to really, really do that. And they do that in the side of the film where, you know, it's like, all right, cool, sadness, get up there. They do the cry. It's like, we need this right now, and they talk about that, and it's no longer them helping Riley with controlling her and her emotions. It's now Riley in control of the emotions and going into that puberty stage where she learns more about herself, which is all about like that teenager's years and then into the young adults and then for the rest of your life, because we're always fucking little children until we die, because you don't really know who you are.
Yeah, I felt like that one moment where it's very on your nose, obviously, but it still kind of worked for me when she said something along, I think it was Joy who said it, that like Riley doesn't need Joy anymore. She's not feeling that anymore. And I was like, damn, that's hitting pretty hard in the state of like, you know, being a teenager, and you have like puberty, and puberty is just messing up all of the controls on the board, and you just press it and it's like extreme emotions that come out, and it's like, I barely touched it. Stuff like that. You know, it's always going to be a universal thing of like, I don't know, a kid being grumpy, a teenager, and then the mom or the dad going, oh, teenagers. That's just universally until the end of time gonna work, just because it's such a true thing. But then also that like inbound sadness, that or like the lack of joy replaced by other emotions, usually of anxiety, is also like very relatable to teenagers. And I think from there I can really see why they focus so much on anxiety. To me, ultimately, this film stays really close to what the message of the first movie was, though. It's like, hey, it's not black or white, it's a mixture of it all that makes you, that makes you your memories that you are going to carry. And then in this, it's like, I'm only a good person because I only do good things. I push down the rest. I ignore it as if I only do good things. And then once you're confronted with doing things that are maybe for you or that are a bit more nuanced because there's no right or wrong thing to do, then the self becomes like a complexity of different things. And you know, that's basically, it's the same thing. Like the one thing was memories that are mixed. The next thing is like the idea of yourself is also mixed. And I don't know if it needed to have like a different approach and different ending note to end on, but I felt like it's very samey without offering like something truly new, or like, I don't know. I think that there's enough here to justify making a sequel. And there's also hockey, so I'm never going to say no to that. But beyond that, I don't know how much that truly is to, like, Pixar can do this a bit better even. And yeah, I don't know if they fully delivered here.
I agree.
Yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up? I like, to me, again, the most interesting parts were the hockey bits. So I like that, like, back and forth. And in real life, they just had the inaugural PVHL. Minnesota took the first championship. That's the like a woman a league that they just had, like, this year for the first time, and it did, like, quite well for its first season. And it's nice to see, like, in professional sports, to have women more featured here, and a movie, about a girl or a teenager who really likes to play hockey. I think that's just a positive thing to have out there, just for, as silly as it is, for representation. I think that's really sick that they make that such a focus of the film. And the movie is, like, not about, like, her having a crush on boys and, like, that's the whole thing that it's about. No, it's about, like, her drive for the sport and connection and friendships that she wants to make. I remember you saying with Turning Red that maybe this was so far from your own experience of being, like, a teen girly who's excited about boy bands, that I was wondering if, like, you had a similar feeling. Like, I obviously was way closer with it because I was like, Riley, you're a real one. You like hockey. Me too. I played it right around that age as well as when I was playing hockey as well. Yeah, did you feel, like, less connection? Was that something that was missing, or was it more like a narrative sense that you didn't love it that much?
I don't think it was a connection thingy.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't know. Like, I still connected with the first one, which is, again, the same characters. I just felt that the first one may have been, as you said, connecting, because I have gone through the end of childhood and I've gone through my teenage years, and now I'm an adult, in quotations, adult, who still likes to drink out of a sippy straw. And those things that, as I said, everyone goes through the end of childhood, and everyone goes through those teenage years, and yes, you will suffer from anxiety, but this one seemed like those really, like, particularly anxiety-filled people that it was going for, and that's why maybe it didn't relate to me as much, because I never really suffered from that much anxiety per se. But I still think that the film works in a lot of ways. I just don't think it is as universally appealing as the end of childhood. And yes, hockey's in it. And I have played on ice before. So yes, I can relate to how violent the sport is. And I can also relate to bad BO. Sometimes, yes, you do get stinky. And I can relate to dyeing my hair. I can probably find a photo of me with blonde streaks in my hair. I can relate to a lot of elements in the film, but I just don't think the film ended up working as well as what the first one did. But that's because we're comparing it to a pretty good first film.
Yeah. I don't hold it as high as praise. Like, people have, I think, that up there as, like, one of the best Pixar films. I don't hold it to that high regard. I think the first one is, to me, like a 3.5, maybe a 4 out of 5. Still really good, but to Pixar standards, there's some 5 bangers in there. I think what this movie does is, like, something very American more than it is just a teenage thing of, there's a change in your life. And I know the extremes that as a kid you go to in your thinking, but your two friends that you connected with are not going to go to the same school as you. You're going to be thrown into a new environment, and you just, like, have to figure out how you're going to make friends, whatever. But the extreme that it goes to, as to, like, you definitely need this, otherwise you will be so lost. I feel like that's an over-the-top thing of, oh my god, I gotta have my group as soon as I'm there. It's the inability to just exist for a bit. You always gotta be in your niche, and you gotta be categorized straight away. And maybe that's just something in American film that I tend to notice, that is so focused on that all the time, and the stress that comes with it. So that's, like, where I tuned out, is, like, just chill a bit. You'll be fine. But obviously, like, the whole movie is about, like, actually having that anxiety and not being fine. and I just didn't resonate. Like you said, growing up from a kid to a teen is so universally relatable a bit more than maybe slightly overreacting to just change. If you look at the rest of Pixar's filmography, does it rank somewhere in the middle for you, or?
I think it's higher than some of the recent ones. I don't think it's as high as some of the OGs, but I definitely think it's. I definitely think it's up there. Like I think I could have a positive time with it, and I'm probably going to be rewatching it in the next 48 hours. So
are you seeing it again? That's fun.
I'll be seeing it again. For date night.
That's sweet. Yeah, the only other film from, I guess, the 2020s that I have over it is Soul. I like that one a bit more. But I basically have the two Inside Out movies right next to each other. And I've seen I think I've seen pretty much all the Pixar films, or close to all. I quite liked Onward, but that's just my connection. That dad, I was like bigger brother figure. I was like, oh, this movie was made for me, so I like it a bit more than others do. But the last couple, Elemental, I famously did not like that when we saw it. God, I really didn't like it. I think Luca was fine, Turning Red. But apart from Cars and Brave, which I really don't like, I don't think Pixar has really made like bad films. Again, their quality seal is higher than most other studios. It's not as great as Studio Ghibli, but you're going to find something in there that's going to be worth seeing. So yeah, I'm somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4. I'm probably gonna go with a 3.5 out of 5 for this one. Lachlan, what about you?
I'm sitting at a 3 right now. A pretty good, a pretty solid 3 for me.
Sounds good. I can still recommend it. I'd say go out to theaters, and hopefully this will stay in theaters for a long time, similar to how Elemental did in the long run. Because we definitely need it in the theaters right now. We do need something, so I wouldn't wait for it to somehow end up on Disney Plus in like 3-4 months. I really hope they keep it in theaters for a while. But if you were to pair it up with another film that you could watch right after, a double feature, you might say, what would you pick?
So we talk about being in the mind of somebody. You got to put yourself in their shoes, control their emotions, be in their head, which is why I'm going back to 1999 to a Charlie Kaufman written film directed by Spike Jonze, starring John Cusack being John Malkovich, as the double feature for Inside Out 2.
That's a good one. I'll probably check this one out myself because I have not seen Being John Malkovich yet. Yeah, I still haven't seen it. And I'm a big Charlie Kaufman fan. I love Synecdoche, New York. So
you're gonna watch it and you're gonna realize it. If you didn't know it was a Charlie Kaufman film, if you watch it and just listen to them talk, you'll go, okay, it's a fucking Charlie Kaufman film.
Okay, that makes fucking sense. I think Anomalisa is also going on streaming at some place. I think on Prime this week. So there's another one. Lachlan, I have a pick as well for you. That's personally for you to watch, because you have not seen Coco yet, Lachlan. And Lachlan, you gotta see Coco. Coco is don't come back to the Dune. You can't escape this. There's no real connection other than it's Pixar. And I'd say it's the best Pixar film potentially ever. It's definitely in the top 3. It's
Holy
really good.
Shit! That's a statement.
Yeah.
That's a statement.
It is. I think it is. It's my favorite. I think it's my favorite Pixar film. I haven't seen it in a bit, in a couple of years, and I more recently have seen Finding Nemo and WALL-E, and really like those two. Yeah, I think it definitely has claim to the throne, But if you can, go check those out. And then new releases this week. One of them is the Jeff Nichols, The Bike Riders, which unfortunately for you, Lachlan, doesn't come out until the beginning of July. It was going to be our main focus next week, but because of that later release date, we'll have to shift things around. Jodie Comer, Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Michael Shannon, Mike Feist, Boyd Holbrook, Norman Reedus. My God, the list doesn't end of boys who belong to be on big old bikes. And I'm looking forward to, I guess, reporting back from once I've seen it, and then later on we'll do another revisited review. And then The Exorcism, look, and you got that one early last week. You didn't ask for it. You had no interest in seeing it, I assume, but that one's out in the States now. And then out at limited release, that means that, hey, it might be out in just 1 or 2 theaters in LA and New York, or it might be up to like a couple hundred theaters in the state. But Fancy Dance, the movie that played in Sundance 2023 with Lily Gladstone, is out in limited release. It also simultaneously is going to start streaming on Apple. So if you can't make it or it's not in your market, then you can go see it on Apple digitally. Then the A24 film Janet Planet that played at Telluride in 2023 is also out in limited release. I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm looking forward to it. A film that I have seen, Thelma with Juno Squibb, played at this year's Sundance, and I can very much recommend that. It's just her going on an adventure as like an 80-something-year-old. It's very fun, super well made. Green Border, this one played at Venice last year. Border stories between Belarus and Poland. It's a 2.5-hour long movie that's told in 5 different segments with different focus groups that get kind of added, and you get more and more layered narrative storytelling as you go along. It's pretty harrowing, but I can recommend that one as well. And then Kinds of Kindness from this year's Gun will release in limited release in the States this week, and then is out in wide release in the coming weeks. For Lachlan, I think it's also out at a later date for me as well. So we'll be covering that in a few weeks' time. But if you can, go see it. It's Yorgos Lanthimos' very fun anthology film. Then out on digital this week, we got Rachel Sennett in I Used to Be Funny as a young stand-up comedian who is weighing whether or not she should join the search for Brooke, a missing girl she used to nanny. I'm quite excited for this one. I definitely let you know what I made of it next week. Then John Krasinski's If is already out on digital. They're really not patient with keeping those in theaters. Then We Grown Now, that played at last year's TIFF, a 90s coming of age film, is out on streaming, as well as Black Barbie. Roger Federer's last couple of days of his professional career as a tennis player got the treatment of a documentary that's coming out on Prime this week. There's also a couple of special screenings at a local theater here, Frame, that's now operated by the Zurich Film Festival. So if you want to see it on the big screen and you live in the Zurich area, go tell them I sent you. Then Kung Fu Panda 4 is out on streaming, as well as Sometimes I Think About Dying. Trigger Warning, a Netflix film with Jessica Alba, is out on Netflix. And then, like I said, Fancy Dance is streaming on Apple. Then in Switzerland, you can see La Fille de son Père, or No Love Lost, from Erwan Leduc. Especially shouting this out because, I missed it in Cannes, or we both missed it in Cannes last year, Lachlan. And the dude has a name that's very close to mine. And whenever I get like press emails, a lot of them write Erwan instead of Ewan, I think because they auto-corrected. So shout out to Erwan. I've heard good things about the film. I'll try and make time for it myself. And then Lachlan, a week early, you are getting the good old Minions and Gru in Despicable Me 4. So Lachlan, you definitely have to go see this one. I feel like you should change date night to not see Inside Out 2 and instead go see Despicable Me 4. I feel like that should be your service, right? You don't serve in the military, but you go to see the
I've
Minions.
never taken relationship advice from you, and I'm not going to start with that one.
Fair. I was just trying to put it off to you because I have no desire to go see Despicable Me 4. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this week's show. Next week, we are most likely going to take a look at I Saw the TV Glow. That's out on streaming as well. If you want to catch it yourself, I can already recommend it, being halfway through. Looks super intriguing. There's lots to talk about there. But yeah, in the meantime, let us know what you've been watching, where Pixar is at. If you liked Inside Out 2, anything else that you want to share, let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next week.
Bye!